Morning, guys. Welcome back. Mr. Jamnik here. Moving along with Module 11. We discussed earlier about adding subtracting equations and doing the inverse operation. So inverse of addition is subtracting, and the inverse of subtracting is addition. Now moving into the second part, which is multiply and divide equations. So it's the same concept, but with two different operations. So as we begin to look at these problems and think about it, again, multiply and division. So what's the opposite of multiply? We have division. And what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So sometimes people think this is a little easier because the process is a lot different in the sense of what you need to do both sides to figure out the equation. And yes, mental math comes in, but when you start doing the higher order questionings and the word problems, this is where you have to really think how it pertains to the question. But this is how the module is going. So if we're looking at, and the standards too, how to apply multiplication and division with different equations from, doubling and all these different factors, factors and multiples, all these come into place. So we look at the first one, we got 9a equals 54. So when we're looking at 9a equals 54, just like we went over in the first part when I did the video, the number that's with the equal sign, okay, that number for this is not getting touched, okay? So if we're looking at this, so if you look, everyone should know when we're retracing our steps, what's the number next to a variable mean? Does it mean add, subtract, multiply, divide? Hopefully everyone says it means to what? Multiply. Good job. So if we're saying it's multiply, we're doing the inverse operation. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Is division. So what you need to do is get the variable, which is a, by itself. So what we're going to do, so you told me, right, a number next to a letter means multiply. We're doing the opposite, which is divide. So we all know that the fraction bar means division. So we're taking the 9 that's given, and we're putting it here. We're going to take the line again, just like we were doing with addition and subtracting. We're doing it on the other side of the number, which equals 54, and we get 9. So what we're looking at now is, again, doing the opposite. 9a equals 54. The variable is a. We need to find out what the variable is. So when we take the number and we do the opposite, which is division, the two numbers that always are going to be the same, just like we did with the other part, these cancel out. The reason they cancel out because now you know that you're figuring out the second part of the equation, which is the true equation to figure out what a would equal. So now we have a by itself, bring down the equal sign, and just think about now, some people, if you want to set up the fraction to do it, if you want to do it mental math, how the numbers grow, it's up to you. But what is 54 divided by 9? Okay? And this is where, you use your timetables, multiplication, factors, and if you need to work it out, you work it out, whatever you guys need to do to go back, okay? So I know that opposite of multiplication is division. I'm dividing both sides by the number next to the variable, which is 9. The 9's cancel out. I bring down the variable, bring down the equal sign, and then we have 54 divided by 9, which should be what? 6. Very good. So, and I'm going to show you a little trick when we're done with all these to see how you work backwards to know that you're actually correct with everything. Okay? Never second guess yourself. Always go what you feel and how the procedure is, and you'll know how that flows and how you get more quickly acquainted to it to figure it out. Okay? So we have an answer of 6. We're going to leave that. Let's go to the next one. 6d equals 18. Same thing. A number next to a variable means multiplication. So we know that we need to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we're dividing both sides by 6, right? Because we're told that it equals 18. So if you do both sides by 6, we know that the 6 cancel each other out. We have the variable d by itself. And again, you're working from here. What's 18 divided by 6? Okay? And then as you guys are thinking about that, some people use their multiplication tables to think about how that can go in or divide, whichever goes, but it just has to make sense when you're applying it to the expression of multiplication or division. So everyone should know that 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay? So let's leave that. Let's move to the next part. Okay? You can see it's set up a little bit different now. All right, now we're doing the inverse. So these were the inverse of multiplication, which was divide. Now we're doing the inverse of, what's the fraction bar? Division. So when we do the inverse, this is how the process is so easy for division, which I think is the easiest one to do. All you're doing is doing the opposite. So what's the opposite of divide? Opposite of divide is multiply. All you need to do is take the denominator, which is going to be given, and the answer is 10. You need to find out what the missing variable of x is going to equal. The easiest way that you can do this is take the denominator and do the opposite of division. What's the opposite of division? Is multiplication. So I'm taking 5 times 10. What's 5 times 10? Right? 5 times 10 gives us 50. And once you replace that, look how simple that was. 1, 2, 3, done. We know that 50 divided by 5 now equals 10. So it all goes back. It's like, the circle of life. You can all see how everything ties into it. I think division out of all the operations is the easiest. You may find something else, how the process goes. Okay? Now take a look at the next one. B divided by 2 equals 7. We know we're doing division. We have to do the inverse of division. So the inverse of division is multiplication. So we need to find the variable of b. So just like I told you here, just put the operation sign here. Multiply. What's 7 times 2? There you go. 14. Then retrace your steps. What's 14 divided by 2? You should get an answer of 7. That's how the process flows. This is all you need to do when you're thinking about multiplying, dividing equations. And then you're eventually going to apply adding, subtracting, multiplication, and division into real-world problems where you need to see the inverse of what they're asking. And you'll see how that flows when you set up the equation based on the number and problem you're giving in the open-ended question. And you'll see that in some of the examples that I'll give you guys as well. So, as I told you guys this one, 9a equals 54. The variable is a. We know that a number next to the variable is multiplied. So we do the opposite, right? So we divide both sides by the number next to the variable, which is 9. So we get 54 divided by 9 is 6. Can anybody take a look at that and just see how we can work backwards to know that we're 100% correct? Take a look at this. And hopefully you guys are looking at the answer that we got, which is 6 and 9. What is 6 times 9? There you go. 54. You just work backwards, but now you understand how this all applies to multiplication and division. That's the inverse way to do it to solve the equation. Look at the next one. We got an answer of 3, right? Because we had divide both sides by 6. 18 divided by 6 gives you 3. So how do we double check that? What's 6 times 3? Bingo. There you go. 18. Very simple. Work backwards. Don't just rush to get it done. Take your time. Make sure that it all goes together. That's understood. If you do it real quickly, some people are, 9 times 63. Nope, you're one number too high. Think about the factors and the multiples and how you apply that skill, work, and then we have our division. Same thing here. Opposite of division is multiplication. All you need to do is take the denominator, multiply it by the number given for the answer, which is 10. And 5 times 10 is 50. Now to double check, again, we could do 50 divided by 5, which is the opposite, and you should get 10. It's the same thing, flipped, inverse. And then we have 14 divided by 2 equals 7, right? And we took 7 times 2, which gives us 14. Same thing. Apply it, reverse, everything flows in together. So the main thing is when you're doing adding, subtracting, multiplication, and dividing, when you're working with equations, expressions, and solving, is you're always doing the inverse of what's being asked. I keep saying inverse, inverse, inverse because you're doing the opposite. Don't just jump to say that I know it's multiplication or division. Look at what you're given between the fraction bar, the number next to a letter, or if it's an addition sign or a subtraction sign. And then from there, then you need to go step by step. Think about it. If you can look at it and know that the answer was 6, that's great. But then ask yourself, all right, let me prove to myself that I'm working and following the procedures of the multiplication and division. And then you can see, well, exactly. I followed the steps. I knew that was the answer. Great job. It's always good to always work backwards and see what's coming into place. And again, the main thing is when you're working with like open-ended problems and these types of equations that you really have to think about the wording. I always told you guys, well, and with this is you're looking at cubes, right? We always think about cubes, circle, underline, the subtract, all these different things. Remember, I had that poster plastered in the room to help you guys as a guide. And you think about the 3 Ps, right? Probing, problem, protocol, okay? And how you're using that from a word problem component, and work backwards, draw a diagram, picture, circle the vocab, underline the keywords, anything that you guys can think of that's going to help stand out. And you're going to keep using this as a good tool for you, okay? And this is a great way to understand the concepts and also keep applying this. So again, very proud of everybody. Keep up the great work. Keep looking at my videos. Remember, check out my YouTube channel. I'm always going to update that with different videos for myself, instructional, different resources, stuff that you can just apply that's really going to help you throughout the process. And again, make sure you're on HRW, IXL. Keep practicing, practicing, practicing. Make sure you're submitting all your work on Google Classroom. And if you need any help, reach out to me, send me an email, and make sure you log on when we do the Zoom so we can live interact, use the whiteboard, and we can really discuss. Last week we ended with an awesome game, those who were able to come on, and it was just a good way to end the week after we did our assessment for order of operations with exponents and all the skills and standards. And it was just really exciting to see everyone, how they took what we did throughout the whole week through all the different assignments, did the assessment, the exit slip, and then we're really able to apply that to the game to finish off the week strong and be proud of all the work that you put in. So keep up the great work. I miss everybody, and I will talk to you soon.